Good day. We're coming on the air with breaking news. FBI Director Christopher Wray, who was first nominated by Donald Trump during his first administration, said he will be resigning from the agency. He announced he is stepping down at a town hall of FBI employees just moments ago. It's an unusual move because Wray still has 3 years left on his 10-year term leading the nation's premier law enforcement agency. But just a few weeks ago, President-elect Donald Trump announced another choice for that job, essentially signaling to Wray he should resign or likely will be fired. Mr. Trump's new pick for FBI director, former DOJ prosecutor Kash Patel. Patel is considered by many in the intelligence community to be a controversial pick, and he would require Senate confirmation. Let's go straight to our justice and intelligence correspondent, Ken Delaney. And Ken, what more can you tell us?
That's right, Lester. Christopher Wray has just announced to a group of FBI employees assembled at a town hall that he is planning to resign by the end of the term. He was not more specific than that. And once Donald Trump announced last month that he planned to nominate his ally Kash Patel as the FBI director, it did become clear that Wray would either have to resign or be fired. And I'm told that some people urge Wray to force Mr. Trump to fire him, to reinforce the idea that this is a norm-shattering event, the second FBI director Trump is forcing out before serving a full 10-year term. And I'm told that others counseled Mr. Wray that it would be better for the FBI workforce if he left on his own accord to avoid a messy firing where Mr. Trump might publicly criticize Mr. Wray and the Bureau, and that's what he decided to do. So Mr. Wray is leaving with 2.5 years left in his term. Presumably, he will appoint an acting director as his successor. And this really marks the end of what was a delicate dance for Christopher Wray, where he tried for years to keep the FBI away from partisan politics and stay off of Donald Trump's enemies list, even as the FBI was running investigations of Mr. Trump. During the first Trump presidency, Wray had managed to avoid the worst of Trump's criticisms. Those were directed at special counsel Robert Mueller, who supervised a special team of FBI agents investigating whether Mr. Trump conspired with Russia or obstructed justice. And then during the Biden presidency, Mr. Wray really couldn't avoid crossing Donald Trump. He oversaw a massive FBI investigation, as everyone remembers, of thousands of people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, and also the investigations into Mr. Trump's role in the effort to overturn the election in 2020 and into his handling of classified documents. Director Wray, of course, approved the FBI search of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago compound in 2022, and that's something Mr. Trump never forgot. In fact, he brought that search up over the weekend in his interview with NBC's Kristen Welker when he said that Mr. Wray, quote, invaded my home, and he added, quote, I'm very unhappy with the things that he's done. Mr. Trump also made clear he was annoyed when Chris Wray a few months ago questioned in a congressional hearing whether Mr. Trump actually was hit by a bullet during that assassination attempt against him. Wray later clarified that it was either a bullet or bullet fragments that struck Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump said in that interview that he had a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect, he said, had gone way down over the last number of years. And he's right about that. Polls show that around half of Americans don't trust the FBI, although trust is higher among Democrats than Republicans. But perhaps no one is more to blame for that than Mr. Trump himself, who has baselessly accused the Bureau of conducting witch hunts against him. In fact, outside reviews found that the FBI had ample reason to open its investigation into whether the Trump campaign coordinated with Russia in 2016. And of course, the FBI uncovered significant evidence of wrongdoing in the January 6th classified documents investigations, which led grand juries of citizens in Washington, D.C. and Florida to vote to indict Mr. Trump. Christopher Wray was appointed FBI director by Mr. Trump in June of 2017 after Mr. Trump abruptly fired then Director James Comey in a controversial move that, of course, resulted in the naming of special counsel Robert Mueller to investigate whether Trump obstructed justice and conspired with Russia. And that was only the second time in history that an FBI director had been fired before serving a full 10-year term. Mr. Trump has now essentially engineered the third such ouster, Lester.
And Ken, as you noted, Kash Patel then would be next in line based on the former president's statements regarding the next leader of the FBI. What more do we know about what he might face in his bid for a confirmation?
Yeah, it's a real challenge for Kash Patel. He doesn't have any obvious scandal looming over his nomination, as was the case for Matt Gaetz, for example, the failed nominee for Attorney General. But he's got a history of making inflammatory and controversial statements, even promising to use the FBI and the Justice Department to go after Mr. Trump's enemies, to go after journalists. You know, he got his start as a firebrand a congressional aide who was criticizing the Russia investigation while he was working for the Intelligence Committee. And he was later hired into sort of mid-level intelligence jobs in the Trump administration. Many current and former senior officials have said that there's really nothing in his background that qualifies him to lead the nation's premier law enforcement agency. But nonetheless, he is Mr. Trump's pick, and we'll have to see what the Senate does, Lester.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Let me go to Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. What are you hearing from there, Peter?
Lester, we've reached out to top White House officials within the last couple of minutes. Specifically, I asked when President Biden would have been alerted by Christopher Wray about this, what, if any, conversation they had either today or in recent days. No answer to those questions yet, but we'll share as soon as we get them. Notably, you spoke to Christopher Wray only a matter of months ago in April of this year, where he said, among other things, that his priority as FBI director was to make sure that they were doing things, as he said, doing the right thing in the right way. He said that means following the rules and following the law. It's clear, though, as evidenced by some of the statements he made to those to the FBI community today, that he has now determined that this is the best time for him to depart. While Ken was speaking, we did receive some of the exact excerpts of what he told the FBI community, saying, in part, after weeks of careful thought, I've decided the right thing for the Bureau is for me to serve until the end of the current administration in January and then step down. My goal, he says, is to keep the focus on our mission, the indispensable work you're doing on behalf of the American people every day. In my view, Lester, he adds, this is the best way to avoid dragging the Bureau deeper into the fray while reinforcing the values and principles that are so important to how we do our work. I should note that one of the real concerns at the White House has been the way that Kash Patel, who Donald Trump has selected to be the next FBI director, has sort of described this as a deep state in this community. It's one thing that folks here are going to be watching very closely. Lester?
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.